Well, if you are a fan of ESPN Radio on the whole, you know the voice and the name of Freddie Coleman. Currently does Freddie and Harry, but has also been on national radio for, I feel like, as long as I can remember. One of our teammates here said that Freddie was one of his favorites to listen to after working at like a restaurant. He'd get in the car and Freddie was on. So it was a treat for me, Freddie Coleman, to be able to hear you say my name first thing in the morning on Wednesday morning as I'm getting out of bed. So thanks for that, Freddie. Appreciate it.
Anything I can do to help the ball club, I'm here to help out you guys as much as I possibly can.
No, it was fun, and we've had some fun with it. And we had Evan Cohen on, and he complimented you on what a great guy you are. And you've been filling in on Sportsmanlike, and I've known Evan for about 20 years here. And the conversation, like, your points were fair, and it's a nuanced conversation with the Packers. And the conversation we kind of settled on with Evan yesterday is really the Packers are the victims of their own success. Like, what they're doing with Jordan Love and Matt LaFleur is still really good, and having that most teams would take that transition, maybe outside of like the 49ers from Montana to Young would take this transition, but they were so good, always in the NFC Championship game, basically with Aaron Rodgers, to now not winning the division. That was kind of more what I was pointing out, is that somehow Detroit has elevated to themselves kings of the North when it used to be the Packers.
Yeah, you're not wrong as far as that goes, Jim. And I know it has to be hard for Packers fans. You look at a Lions team that a lot of people, plenty of years, look at there's 2 wins on your schedule, and those days are completely over. What Dan Campbell has been able to do, but I don't mind that Packers fans have high expectations, and I also don't mind when you gentlemen call out the Packers for who they are. If you believe that the Packers are not being the golden children at that point, you're not doing yourselves any favors or your listeners any favors by saying on the good ship lollipop that the Green Bay Packers are. So I think that was the point I was trying to make in terms of, I hear what you're saying in terms of like leveling down based on what you've been able to see from when it came to Brett Favre and then to Aaron Rodgers and now Jordan Love, who seems to have the stone to be that next terrific quarterback in Green Bay. But if you're not getting to a championship game based on what we've seen in previous years. So that's the nuance that you definitely brought to the table that I kind of hammered down maybe a little bit too hard on you when I took offense to that.
That was great.
To prepare for this, Freddie, I asked ChatGPT a little bit about you, and I want to know if you feel like this is accurate. In describing you, ChatGPT says he's known for his smooth style and deep knowledge across different sports. Agreed?
Okay. The smooth style, yes. The deep knowledge, that can be debatable depending on who you talk to.
Were you a play-by-play announcer for high school and a DJ as well coming up in the profession?
Yeah, I did play-by-play and color analyst in high school, and I was able to be I always wanted to be a music DJ when I graduated from college. I wanted to be that next great FM radio DJ, so that was where my loyalty laid out before Sports Talk Radio, and I got bitten by that bug.
Well, how did I'm sorry, I'm going off
the
rails.
I want to know the genre too. The dream genre you could have been in.
Yeah, how do you go from music then to all of a sudden like, oh, now I'm doing sports?
Well, it's amazing you ask that because I'd always loved Sports Talk Radio, but I never thought in a million years I'd be a part of that forum, be a part of that whole discipline because Sports Talk Radio is definitely an art form in my opinion. I don't care if it's local, I don't care if it's regional, I don't care if it's national. Having the ability to bring people into your conversations and having a chance to have that back and forth. Not saying that was something I did not want to do. I didn't think I was ever going to be good at it. And I figured as long as I was spinning the wax and playing the CDs, and being part of classic rock formats or pop radio formats or soul music formats, that's what I really enjoyed. But once you have a chance to be a part of what I like to call intimate conversations of doing that, that's when it really took hold. And I decided to leave the music business behind being a DJ from that standpoint and applying my trade in Sports Talk Radio. So far, so good.
Yeah, I mean, you only get like 30 seconds before a song to be a DJ, but you can get in depth and actually talk, like you said, and have a conversation. So back to the Packers, back to Jordan Love. Is there a timeline for Jordan Love where if he doesn't kind of get to a different level, you might just as a Packers fan say, well, you know what, he's a really good quarterback?
That's a really good question because I think in a microwave society that we live in when it comes to how we feel about how our teams are doing or not doing, it can be very easy to shrink that timeline. I think if you ask anybody in Miami, they may be having that conversation about Tua Tagovailoa. You ask anybody in Jacksonville, they're definitely having that conversation about Trevor Lawrence. And when you pay quarterbacks that big time money that early, you know what's going to happen. It's going to increase those expectations that if you're not delivering on those expectations in a certain amount of time, then that's when things can get really gummy. That's when things can get sticky. So Jordan Love, in my opinion, is not going through anything different. than what the other quarterbacks that I mentioned, and that Brock Purdy is going to go through that in San Francisco now that he got his bag. And now people are saying, okay, if you're that good and you get paid that kind of money, you better start delivering. You better outplay those quarterbacks. Your teams better get further and further into the playoffs. And I think at a certain point, if Jordan Love is not there now this season, after what he's done the last couple of seasons, that's going to be a situation next year. Let's say Green Bay Packers get to the playoffs and are one and done. Then we're going to hear that conversation get louder and louder and louder regarding Jordan Love.
Talking with Freddie Coleman here from ESPN on Jim, Matt, and Molly. And while we're in the North here, and I know you guys have talked about some of this on Unsportsmanlike, let's kind of stick around it. I want to get your thoughts from a wider perspective on the other teams in the North and the quarterbacks in general, because Jared Goff he's not an old man. He's 29, but he's got a lot of experience, so he's still in his prime. I think he's kind of a guy that everyone just assumes they know exactly who he is. J.J. McCarthy, he didn't even have a true traditional sitting year because he was hurt. He didn't get a chance to get a lot of reps and time in there. But Kevin O'Connell has proven with getting a lot out of Cousins and Sam Bradford that he can. Not Sam Bradford. Who am I? Sam Darnold. Sam Bradford. All of a sudden there. But and then Caleb Williams. We don't know what's going to happen with him. But it's almost a new rookie year with Ben Johnson as his coach. So it's an interesting division with the quarterbacks.
It's a great point because I made this point about a couple of days ago. I said if he stays healthy, Jordan Love has the least amount of questions regarding him at quarterback than anybody in this division. The big question with Jared Goff is, what is he going to look like in this offense without Ben Johnson, who's now the head coach of Chicago? What is Caleb Williams going to look like now that Ben Johnson left Detroit to go to Chicago Bears? And many people wonder, with this kind of talent, will he be able to put it together sooner than later? J.J. McCarthy had a gap year last year because of the injury, and now he's stepping into a situation with two outstanding wide receivers in Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison, who are going to be compromised when game one rolls around, because we don't know what Justin Jefferson is going to look like dealing with a hamstring injury, and Jordan Addison suspended the first 3 games by violating the substance abuse policy in the National Football League. You look at Jordan Love going to the Green Bay Packers, and as long as he stays injury-free, they don't have any big injuries outside of the offensive line. They had those kind of troubles in preseason camp already. He has the least amount of questions because we've seen what he's been able to do when he's healthy. And if he's able to be that kind of quarterback that we've seen, that can make the Packers not just a threat in that division, but can make the Packers a threat in the NFC to Philadelphia, Los Angeles, and everybody else.
I have another one here to kind of follow up on that with is in the future, if we're looking ahead, let's say 3 years from now, like who do you see as the best quarterback in the North? Because there are questions, but some of these guys, like you could argue that Caleb might have the highest ceiling, but we don't know where his floor is at. So in 3 years, who do you think will end up being that best quarterback in the North?
I think it's going to be Jordan Love. I'm not just saying that because I'm on your radio show, guys, but I just think that his ceiling and his ability, that if he keeps making those layups, we know he can go for the Big Bang Theory. That not only works for Sheldon Cooper, but it works for Jordan Love at times, hitting those deep shots down the field. But I think he's going to get better as a quarterback if you can make those layups. On 3rd and 5, you hit that pass in the flat. 3rd and 6, you hit that quick slant on the inside. It can't just be about the big play ability, because the more you keep hunting for those plays and they're not going to be there, then those basics are really going to come back to haunt you if you don't nail that down. If he starts making those kind of throws consistently and then you hit on those big shots, then his ceiling to me is going to be better potentially Caleb Williams, even though he has that quote-unquote generational kind of talent ability. J.J. McCarthy fits what Minnesota is going to do, but he doesn't have the arm strength, in my opinion, that Jordan Love has. And Jared Goff, and you're right, he's been around for more than a minute, but he's not even 30 years of age yet. But how many bites at the apple is he going to get to try to be a championship quarterback? I think in 3 years, because of Jordan Love and his ability, that what he learned from Aaron Rodgers being the understudy and keep getting better and reducing those turnovers and those mistakes, he could be at the top of the division in the NFC North.
J.J. McCarthy, of course, the unknown here of all these quarterbacks in the division, but I feel like he's kind of set up with Kevin O'Connell to have some success there. Justin Jefferson. I mean, he's got some pieces around him. Do you think this will be a smooth transition for him?
If it's going to be a smooth transition, the one key name you mentioned was his coach, Kevin O'Connell. I think he's one of the top 5 coaches in the National Football League. Whatever quarterback whispering that he does, that's the secret sauce that a lot of people love to have, because people thought Sam Darnold's career was flat done. And what did he do last year? Won 14 games when people did not think this team was going to win 9 or 10 football games. He can do the same thing with J.J. McCarthy, because Kevin O'Connell, and like Matt LaFleur as well in Green Bay, they're so good at putting their quarterbacks in win situations where you can win on first down, then a second and short, or making those kind of easy throws and scheme people open, or the quarterbacks can read the defense properly and get the ball to their playmakers. He's been sensational doing that what he's been able to do in Minnesota, where he did with Kirk Cousins before the injury, and then he did it with Sam Darnold last year. I trust in what he believes and what he brings to the table. And yeah, it's going to be a bumpy road early. It's the National Football League. We're not talking about high school where you go from the junior varsity, then you go to the varsity, and then it's Friday Night Lights. We're not talking about that. But if anybody can ease that transition and make it more of a smooth ride for a young quarterback that has not taken an NFL snap yet, he could not be in a better position than J.J. McCarthy having Kevin O'Connell as his head coach.
Speaking of head coaches, and we talked about LaFleur and Jordan Love, there was an article he wrote for the Players Tribune about the Aaron. Obviously, some really insightful stuff about his father, but he talked a lot about Aaron Rodgers and the impact he had. And so, in a perfect world, how long do you think that perfect time is for a quarterback to be able to sit? We saw Mahomes sat a year, and obviously Alex Smith in front of him, and Aaron Rodgers was here, and that's the luxury that not every team has, because usually what happens is you get Chicago and you have Mike Glennon and you have Mitch Trubisky sitting, and you're like, well, we just got to play Mitch because Mike stinks. So it's not very easily done, but in a perfect scenario, having an offensive-minded coach and then having a guy sit for at least a year, because Jason Wilde, who covered the Packers, said that if Jordan Love had to play year one, he'd probably turn out like Marcus Mariota, been out of the league because everyone had given up on him.
It depends on the organizational policy involving that. Here's why I say that. For example, you look at C.J. Stroud, his first year at the Houston Texans. He was so advanced, there was no need to wait. They weren't rushing him along, and what happened? They win the division, win a playoff game, and they gave the Baltimore Ravens holy you-know-what in that first half. Same situation with Jaden Daniels with Washington Commanders, where we knew he was going to be terrific, but he was terrific early, and they said there's no need to wait. This guy is going to be ready. It depends on your evaluation before that young player gets to the practice field. Now, you mentioned Patrick Mahomes sat for 1 year. Alex Smith was so good, there was no need to rush Patrick Mahomes along. And when he was ready to play, they played in that final regular season game against the Denver Broncos, and he's been tearing apart the league ever since. It depends on what that situation looks like, where if you got an experienced team, but if your quarterback's not ready, you're not doing him any favors or your team any favors by rushing him out there. The Bears had to do that last year because they felt Caleb Williams was ready. He was just completely undercoached by Matt Eberflus and that staff, and all those guys are no longer there. So it all depends on what kind of quarterback aptitude you have coming into that room. If you believe that player is not ready, or if the guy in front of him is too ready, then you don't need to rush your quarterback along. You don't need to play to what the fans are saying. Hey, play him early and find out what happens. Sometimes that works, but a lot of times it really does not.
Well, Freddie, we appreciate you joining the show, and we have mutual friends in Evan Cohen, who I've known for 20 years. Gabe Neitzel, I've known since he's been about 19 years old, so a lot of mutual friends, so I got a chance to actually talk with you on the air. We appreciate it, and thanks for being a good sport about this.
Oh, and thank you for being a good sport as well, Jim, and also when it comes to you guys and your radio show, so anytime you guys want me to come back, I would love to do it again. Appreciate you guys.
We greatly appreciate that, Freddie. Thank you so much.
Thanks. Have a good weekend.
All right, you too. That was Freddie Coleman from Freddie and Harry. You also can hear him on Unsportsmanlike. He's filled in a couple times there for Evan Cohen.
That sounded really silly.
I think we all know that he's been on Unsportsmanlike, Jim. That went without saying.
That is true. That is very true.